Hello, hello. Mic check. Apolitical episode. Boom. Hello, welcome. This is Parker Breezeball, Parker Thomas Breezeball, first of name, and you are watching once more the Iridescent. And no, I don't actually wear an N95 in my home while I'm in my home, but the AQI here in Tacoma, the city of destiny, in the Evergreen State, Washington that is currently somewhere around 230. For those of you who don't understand the AQI, which would have been me like a week ago, it stands for Air Quality Index, and a safe number for the AQI for an area is under 50. That's when you're in the green. Between 51 and 100 is okay, and then between 100 and 200 is unhealthy for people with underlying health conditions. Well over 200, and we're out here smoking like 8 cigarettes a day. So yeah, that's the state of my world right now. We're all holed up in our little bunker. I haven't really left the house in like probably about 72 hours. Very little. Today's art installation, I would like to give a shameless plug to my brother here, Lini. He is a San Diego-based rapper and hip-hop musician. And this is a hard copy of his latest album, Lini Land, which you can hear on all your various music apps, Spotify, Apple Music, what have you. He's all over the place. The album itself, the sound, in my layman's opinion, is absolutely brilliant and completely original. He's kind of got a wavy type flow. It's sort of like synthesized psychedelic rap. Very true to the culture of our hometown, San Diego. He's got other young and up-and-coming artists on there, Sevi OG and Rossi Rock. Shout out to those guys. I highly recommend listening to this album. It's got some serious bangers. My favorite one is Grind Mode Intermission. Kind of underrated one. I don't think a lot of people would say that that's their favorite song, but for me, it's personally inspiring to get my lazy ass off the couch and into this chair and in front of this camera and talking to the mic and putting this shit on the internet. Other bangers include TikTok, 930, Drive-In. It's all there. It's great. Highly recommend it. You don't even need a hard copy to listen to it. I just wanted some fucking swag, some fucking merch. Yeah, hit him up on Instagram. And if you want this, if you want a poster seen off camera, hit him up, and I'm sure he'll give you a decent price if you tell him the Iridescent sent you. But yeah, peep his little Blues Clues sweater there. Isn't that fucking baller? And those dogs, a couple of Rhodesian Ridgebacks. Those are not photoshopped. Those are real, genuine, authentic good boys, and I think we all know that if you live on the West Coast, you could use a couple good boys in your life right now, because shit is emotionally taxing. Just look out the fucking window, turn on the news. Everything's on fire, literally. And it's not super exciting. There are things we can do in our modern 21st century life to keep us preoccupied that we never had before. So good thing the apocalypse is happening now. Music, video games, read a book, do whatever you can. I've recently been playing a new game called Spellbreak, a newcomer onto the Battle Royale scene. Yeah, Battle Royales a la Fortnite, Apex Legends, Call of Duty. That game's garbage. I fucking hate Call of Duty. Spellbreak, however, gives us a whole new twist on all that, and I'm pretty sure it's going to break through. I think that game's got a lot of potential. It's certainly a lot of fun. Still pretty new. It's like technically a pre-release, but it's got the originality factor going, and it's fun. It's easy to pick up. It's really fast-paced, and like a Battle Royale, you can kind of just drop in, and it's an even playing field for pretty much everybody until you get better at the game. So it's very accessible. It's free. It's a small game. It's great. But let me tell you about the specifics of it. So Battle Royale, right? You all drop in to this map with various locations and stuff. There's loot and there's treasure all over the map. You know the gist. There's no building like in Fortnite. So I know that's a big boost for a lot of people, because a lot of people hated that shit because they couldn't figure it out. Everybody's getting their ass kicked by your average 13-year-old who just like grew up and Fortnite was technically their second language. In Spellbreak, you don't have to build anything. You don't have to be super good at aiming, which is another thing that's great for people like me who forever were doomed to kind of suck at Call of Duty and maybe be mid-tier at Apex Legends, because there aren't any guns. That's another reason I'm into it. You don't have to acquiesce to any kind of online gun culture to get into a battle royale for once. So what do you use? Swords? Lances? Batons? Boxing gloves? No. You use gauntlets. Magical gauntlets. You play the role of a battle mage or something to that effect. Some kind of cartoony, smiling, like pseudo-anime looking character who jumps around and stuff, and you fling various magical elements at each other. Fire, rock, air, ice, lightning, toxic. It's kind of got Avatar The Last Airbender vibes to it, but just like put that onto kind of a Fortnite looking engine on a map with a shitload of verticality, tons of spires and mountains and canyons and gullies and craters. And one of the things I really like about this game is extreme mobility. There's no ammo, there's mana, which is just kind of like a little bar. Basically, you use your mana to do anything magical, which includes shooting fireballs, jumping and flying, using your sorcery ability, which is like a secondary spellcasting thing. So there's really a lot of dynamic interplay on like managing your offense and your mobility, which is really cool. There's also this rune mechanic, which is like a tertiary magical ability. You can teleport all kinds of different types of flying, even higher than normal. Because normally you get to just levitate as you jump, which is pretty sweet. But anyways, point is, it's a fucking sick game. I think it's going to blow up. If I was better, maybe I'd stream, because I don't think there's a huge Twitch community for it yet. But I've been playing all weekend because, like I said, I can't go outside. And I could have played with like 3 or 4 different teams. I got so many buddies like glomming back towards the Battle Royale dog pile, who, you know, are fed up with COD, don't play Apex anymore. I don't know anybody who plays Fortnite anymore, but Battle Royales were a revolution in video games. And this is a good one with a fresh take, because I think it was on the cusp of getting stale. The format was, anyway. Get good. Dominate. You'll get wins. I got wins. I never used to get wins in any of those games, but I can get wins in Spellbreak, so checks out in my book. My favorite is the toxic. The Stone Shaper. It's like an earthbender. Big shockwave type thing. Chucks boulders and shit. It's pretty nice. Very high damage. Kind of mid-range tanky. I've always kind of cleaved towards tank roles in games. When I played League of Legends, I liked to play top, kind of bruisery tanks. Overwatch, which was the last like pseudo MOBA that I was playing, I like to play tanks, Reinhardt, Orisa, those types. And I think that speaks to the fact that I suck at aiming. The main thing I want to talk to you about today, because, you know, I've been doing a lot of thinking about how, you know, the world is a more and more inhospitable place every single day. We exist on it and, you know, drive on it, dump shit into the water on it, fart on it, eat meat on it, you know, do all kinds of things that just like constitute normal human existence and meandering about. It's gradually turning the whole fucking thing into a hellscape. And there's my West Coast bias again, but that's because literally most of the West Coast is a hellscape at this moment. So thinking about how hard it is to live here and thinking about hellscapes, wouldn't you believe that the coolest single fucking headline I've seen all weekend, and by coolest I mean like not infuriating or depressing or kind of meh because it's about the NFL restarting. The objectively most interesting headline I've seen all weekend was from the New York Times, but a lot of people are reporting this. Scientists are saying that through their big-ass giant freaking, like, what do you call them? Telescopes. Planetary telescopes. They have found signs of life on Venus. Okay, that sounds insane. I realize I'm wearing a neon green security jacket and a top knot and a headband, and I look like an insane person, and I'm telling you there's life on Venus, but that is actually what these headlines are reporting. And what they found was a thing called phosphine gas, which is something that scientists have been connecting with the ability to support life on certain exoplanets throughout the galaxy that they can see because of proximity or however that works. God. Space is tight. Space is tight. I wish I understood more about our ability to do interplanetary, intersystem study of objects in space, but I think it's just above my pay grade and maybe above my intellectual capacity. But anyways, apparently this stuff, phosphine gas, under certain circumstances on gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn, where there's just an immense amount of pressure and a lot of gaseous reactions going on all the time, phosphine gas can be formed naturally as part of those interactions. But on rocky planets, like Venus, Earth's a rocky planet, Mars is a rocky planet, planets that are literally made of rock, there aren't nearly enough gases present for those same types of reactions that occur on Jupiter and Saturn and places like that. There aren't enough gases present for the creation of phosphine to occur, except from forms of life. And the types of life that produce phosphine gas are anaerobic organisms. Anaerobic means Greek/Latin root lesson here. An means without. Aerobic has to do with air, like use of air. So without air. What it pans out to is organisms that don't need oxygen to survive. And there are some of those that exist here on Earth, but they're typically microorganisms. So stuff that lives near volcanic vents deep under the ocean, stuff that exists in the intestines of some animals, places that are not oxygen-rich environments, and life has managed to find a way without oxygen there. So those types of organisms produce phosphine gas, right? So how could those exist on Venus? Well, in case you didn't know this about Venus, although it's often called Earth's twin, scientists have not spent very much time at all studying it, which is because it's a fucking hellscape. And who would want to study a hellscape? If I was an alien and I was looking at Earth, I would not inspect the Pacific Northwest right now, because I'd just figure, no, there's no way oxygen-breathing fucking life could live there right now. And they're kind of right, because what we're all doing is an approximation of living at best. I mean, maybe if you were a microorganism that lived next to a volcanic vent most of the time, this would be living large. But for my sentient standards, this sucks ass. So, anyways, Venus, however, is even worse than that. They have a shitload of CO2 in their atmosphere, so we obviously couldn't breathe it. And also, the average temperature on the surface is over 850 degrees Fahrenheit. In case you actually like the heat, the thing that would really crush you is the atmospheric pressure there is roughly 1,300 pounds per square inch, which is the equivalent of being 3,000 feet underwater. So, Venus is literally just like, you'd be in a super inferno can crusher if you tried to stand on the surface of Venus. So how can anything live there? Certainly not anything like us. Well, apparently, and again, this is just so fascinating how science can even determine this, but 31 miles below the top of Venus's atmosphere, somehow they recorded temperatures of roughly about 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which is just, a warm day on the burning down west coast before fire season, Now that's in the clouds, but who's to say organisms need to walk on 2 feet? That's the crazy thing about conceptualizing aliens that we as a species have done like a pretty poor job of in the popular sense. And we can't really be blamed for it because we have a anthrocentric view of reality, right? Like, we are the perceivers of reality, therefore the creation of reality must be centered around us. And that's rooted in a lot of religious stuff, the whole God made us in his image thing. But what's probably more likely, what's like very probably, almost certainly more likely, is that life in other parts of the universe or the galaxy aren't going to look anything like us. They might not even have DNA. They might not breathe air. They might breathe mercury and be a gaseous organism. They might reproduce with sound waves. The atmosphere of the world they live in might literally be burning with a flame that's not even actual like plasmic fire like we understand it. Like, there's just so much shit out there in the galaxy that to silo it into, a popular Star Wars type alien where it's just like a big hairy dude, or like they have like a flipper on their face, or like even the ones that kind of look like giant bugs but also speak English, those aliens are probably the least possible likely aliens. If it's got feet and a face and hands, that's probably not out there in the galaxy anywhere except for us, right? So on Venus, what they're hypothesizing, due to the presence of this phosphine gas, is tiny little microorganisms that could live in droplets of some kind of liquid up in the atmosphere of Venus. Because Venus is surrounded by a thick layer of clouds. It's got a very dense atmosphere. So it's basically clouds all the way down to the hellish frying pan, Satan's ass surface of the Earth, right? So in those clouds, due to the presence of phosphine gas, the scientists are hypothesizing that there could be tiny microorganisms living in the clouds. Actually, the article I read didn't even stipulate that they had to be super tiny. They were just saying that they lived somewhere in that like 30 miles south of the upper reaches of the atmosphere. That's fucking wild. What if they're like cloud surfing manta rays? What if they're like itty bitty starfish clusters? What if it's a bunch of just like kind of floppy jellyfish shaped like Trump's wig, sort of doing the worm through the mist, just shitting out phosphine gas? Because there's a lot of it. It's like, what's the number? 20 parts per billion? 5 to 20 parts per billion in the atmosphere, which I don't know what that means. But what I do know that is, according to the article, is that is thousands of times more phosphine gas than there is on Earth being produced by something. And like I said earlier, on rocky planets like Venus, there isn't enough gas to just make that occur naturally. It has to be being produced by something similar to the anaerobic life on Earth. So, who would have thought that in all the wide galaxy that we've been looking out to for however long now, and prophesizing and fantasizing and hypothesizing the existence of life elsewhere, that it might actually be our closest neighbor, Venus? That would be wild. And those guys would be bros, because, by the time we get, something that we could get to orbit Venus, and some kind of technology maybe where we could possibly communicate on some level, if they were even comparably sentient or intelligent, which they probably aren't. I am fantasizing at this point, but it makes for good sci-fi, right? But by the time we get all that stuff, checked off the list, We're probably going to have a lot to talk about because Earth will be just as much of a fucking hellscape as them. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting. I wonder what they'll think of my top knot on Venus. I bet it'll be more socially acceptable. Hit me up, play Spellbreak, listen to Lini Land. Let me know what you think. Leave comments, subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe. Don't breathe too deeply. Parker Brisebois, you've been watching the Iridescent Show. Peace!